this is called How to Grow a Community, but a lot of this is actually backing up what Natalie said. And honestly, if I could call it anything, I would call it what Sarah did wrong and what Sarah did right. I've been in the industry for about 5-6 years. My first gig was with Sega, working on Football Manager Live. And if anyone knows that title, you know it tanked and died after about 3 months, and unfortunately I was made redundant. After that, I went to work on Def Jam Rap Star, the ever-popular karaoke rap game, which tanked after 3 months. I'm feeling good about my career so far. Then I worked on Batman Arkham Asylum, Batman Arkham City, and worked a bit on Batman Arkham Knight. Then left there to go and work at Sony, where I head up a team looking after first-party exclusive titles. So we work with Naughty Dog, Media Molecule, Resogun was one of our launch titles, PlayStation 4. And so essentially this is kind of tips on what to do once you've got your base level in and kind of where to go. And this is a mixture of gloriously professional screenshots and as many bad images as I could get in here as possible. So the first tip would be to identify who your community is very early. The mistake I made with Football Manager Online, one of many in a development process, honestly, was that we assumed that the people who played the PC game would obviously immediately port to play an online version of that. Because they liked that, they'd like it online. They did not. Fortunately, everybody went and bought Ronaldo in every world, everybody went and bought gigs, and everybody else who came in 5 minutes later got left with the dregs, the Burnleys, the Barnsley Football Club players. So what you do going forward is say, okay, I'm working on a PC game, indie game, JRPG, whichever you're doing, is identify who they are, where they hang out, what they do, so you can tailor your messaging. Even tailoring, like, for example, Resogun has a Facebook page, but we don't have a Twitter account. We realize that community, they like to post a lot of images, share a lot of videos, and get very kind of visual with the scores they do. Twitter, not the ideal medium for them. So we're able to tailor our response for them. So in terms of your strategy going forward, it's once you know who they are, you go, right, my community is going to really enjoy my game, whatever genre I am, is figuring out how you want to grow them. Going forward, you want to grow them into huge, great big numbers. You want 2 million fans in your first month. That's going to be awesome. Or do you want to only have about 10,000, but have them all know you by name, know the developers, know the community managers, and really understand you? That's going to shape everything you do. Sometimes, if you're an indie studio, it's a lot easier, but maybe your game gets picked up by Sony. And then you've got a lot of cooks, a lot of opinions, and a lot of people wanting to force different kind of publisher ideas, publisher needs, financial requirements. But knowing your strategy when you go in and saying, our game will be out in a year, we're going to have 6 months where we're going to just kind of do, here's our game, we're at res, we're going to grow our community there, and then our second 6 months, we're going to throw a lot of money at it, and then we're going to pay to be at Eurogame, we're going to pay to be at as many big events as we can. That strategy will decide everything you do. Now, this is a bit of a strange one. When I first got into the games industry, even though I've been a gamer pretty much my whole life, I found that I didn't know what anyone was saying online, that I didn't understand what a JRPG was, a Morpurga. I didn't even understand Rotfla. Lol. There's that famous story, the mother texting her child to say, your grandmother's dead, lol, because she thought it meant lots of love, which my mum does the same. But going in when you speak to your community and to publishers like Sony is knowing your lingo. If you pitch your game or your community game, so we had a game pitched recently, I won't say who by, where they called their game a JRPG action-adventure puzzle game. We were like, brilliant, this is going to be awesome. That's 3 fantastic genres, and it was Candy Crush. But it had Candy Crush with ninjas at the side, but they thought that was the right way to sell it. It was all the wrong acronyms. It was the wrong way to talk about their game. But they obviously Googled key terms to use. So know your lingo, know your shorthand, know the right way to speak to your community. So picking your channels, which I know Natalie touched on, is actually really difficult because right now there's probably about 8 or 9 channels you could jump to quickly. That's Ustream, Twitch, Instagram, Vine, Snapchat, Facebook, Twitter. You can just go on and on and on. But picking which ones you actually want to use is the hardest decision you will make. I still want to do everything. I still think that picture would look great of Sackboy, it'd look great on Instagram. Not really any point, I'll get 20 likes for it, and then I've got to manage that for the next 6 months. It's not really feasible. Even though I have a team of 4 people, it doesn't really seem to make sense to just use everything because I can. However, I love Vine, and I follow all the Viners, and it's tragic that I spend hours in bed scrolling, watching 7-second clips, and so I could be doing something more productive. But we loved it so much with Little Big Planet 3 that we pitched it to the development team as having it in-game. And we decided that 7 seconds is not enough. So you build a level in the game, and you go, I want to show this off to everyone. This is awesome. Here's a 7-second clip. It's not really feasible. It's great to kind of almost restrict the community and say, you've got to make something in this time, otherwise they could do an hour-long video because they do love their content. But in the end, we made it 30 seconds. So now in the game itself, you make your level. Then at the end, we say, hey, do you want to make a video? Here's a 30-second clip. We'll upload it to Facebook, Twitter, to our website. But essentially, we kind of stole what Vine did and just found a way to use it in the game development process to engage the community. Any excuse? So engaging with the community on a day-to-day basis is, firstly, can be a little bit exhausting. Gamergate is a good example of how it can all get out of hand really horribly quickly. Another really good example of how not to listen to your community is if any of you are familiar with what Black Milk Clothing did online a while ago after posting a picture, which some say get a bad light on people who are into video game technology. Instead of listening to what people were complaining about and really addressing what the community was saying, is they banned people. They shut them off their Facebook page, they closed threads, they posted a moderately passive-aggressive message explaining it, and I know people that now won't buy their products. Immediate cause and effect of what happens when you don't listen to your community and you go on the offensive instead of trying to kind of engage with them. No, you're not clicking? I mean, that leads nicely into responding. There are times when you should respond. Black Milk should have responded. There are times when you shouldn't. When I worked on Arkham, when the game came out on Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, it had no DLC codes in it for Catwoman. So they were all shipped wrong. We had like 20,000, 30,000 people got the game and were missing their content. So the first thing they did is they came to the forums where I was working and they screamed bloody murder. It was death threats. I had people cut the cats' heads off dolls and toys and ship them to the office. There's a whole thread. I went on holiday for a week, and it was like, Sarah is a prostitute because she can go on holiday while we can't play this content. Missed it all. Was away. But I came back, was so panicked by what I saw, and this kind of, oh God, everyone, they don't just hate me, they hate the game, is that I responded and said, oh, I think it's a problem with Xbox and PlayStation. Probably not what I should have done as a developer, because immediately game sites picked it up as a PR story, Rocksteady blames. Games publishers, Sony got in touch, Microsoft got in touch. One little forum post, and next thing I knew, I was being essentially hauled up in front of the execution squad. So know when not to respond. It may feel like everybody is screaming at you, your game code doesn't work, there's a game crashing bug after the first section. It feels like everyone in the world hates you and your studio. It's realistically sometimes only about 10 people, but they're really, really, really loud, and it feels like they're the only people you should be listening to at that time. Oh, clicking the wrong way. Hey. Oh, it makes me so happy. I was looking for images in the work, and they were like, that better be work. You're not just looking at Picard. Like, I could be, and I would be so happy. So supporting your community is, it feels a bit kind of faffy and a bit wishy-washy, like, oh, give them a hug, show them some affection. But a lot of the times, it can be as simple as them hearing a voice when it feels like things are going really badly, or even when things are going really well. Once your game is shipped, you could have Metacritics of 90, 95, you're cracking open champagne, Lambrini, whatever you do, and it's easy to just go, right, done, and leave. But actually, that's the time when even if you just jump on and say, thanks, that's been awesome, whichever channel you choose, it means you're still there. You've not used them as some kind of cheap PR marketing ploy to go, we want viral news, we want press, we're going to talk to the community and do community activities. Now the game's out, we're done. It's the same way you would support them pre-launch with answering questions about potentially pre-orders or what's the frame rate in this. Don't answer frame rate questions if you're ever asked. There's no good answer to this question. Naughty Dog shouldn't have done that. Generally, there are general things to avoid responding to, from my experience, is frame rates. how you run a PlayStation compared to an Xbox, how you run on new gen compared to old gen, anything to do with publishers. Oh, hey, how much has Sony paid you for this? Or did you pitch to Xbox as well? Like, just avoid it no matter what happens. Even if you're a really small studio and you feel like you've been rejected by Microsoft and Sony and you decide, I'm going to go and talk about this online. We've genuinely had games come into us and we've loved it. And we thought, it's a brilliant game. But last month you tweeted out that you hated us because we wouldn't accept your first pitch. We won't touch you now. It feels like what you're doing is one tweet. But in fact, if you're pitching games and if you're looking to speak to big people, we really do track it all, which makes us sound really big brothery and ominous. But unfortunately, you've got to make sure that the games you sign, the studios you sign, will also represent you really well, and that their communities will represent the brand you are. Oh, I keep clicking miles away. So, it wasn't 9 o'clock in the evening when I was doing this. So, moderation is a hot topic. I mean, again, Gamergate, you think, could have moderated this, could have done this better. Black Milk could have moderated it. Don't be afraid of the ban hammer if you're managing forums, Twitter, Facebook. Making a clear message to other community that you won't tolerate hate speak. And I mean, I could go in a massive 30-hour Gamergate rant about this. It's never cool. We run Little Big Planet, which is, like, if you know it, it's the happiest game ever. It's so cute. But we have bullies in there like I've never seen. We had one girl build a level encouraging another user to kill themselves. And we were like, that's horrific. So we moderated it, banned it. They put it back the next day, banned it. It was literally just like bang, 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 bang. And they kept coming back. In the end, we escalated to the police, unfortunately, because we thought they put out a tweet saying something like, oh, I hope you're having fun in Bristol. And we're like, how do you know where she lives? But even in games where you feel like you've made the funnest, friendliest game ever, Candy Crush gets these, Moshi Monsters gets them, there's always a few that are going to abuse or they're going to just kind of step out of line. Don't be afraid to be the bad guy and say, that's not cool, because it makes everybody else feel safer. Now, moderating people who are good is also, if you play League of Legends and if you're active in their community, they do this brilliantly. They essentially say, police yourselves. It's easier for the community to feel like they have that control. I'll manage this, that guy's been a bit mean, that guy's just posting every day about how awesome he is. He's not being offensive, but he's annoying everyone and being detrimental to everyone else's experience. Think about ways to moderate, whether it's you sit there and do it yourself, you have a person you recognize who supported your game from the very beginning, kind of deputize them and say, off you go, can you help me? I trust you. But always find a way to have one person in the community that you recognize who can help you kind of flag potential matters. So of easy shortcuts I've heard of and had offered to me is things like paid-for Facebook ads. Now, a lot of people honestly think this is a fantastic way to get your numbers up, and it will. You can go from 5,000 likes to about 50,000 likes in 2 days. But what you're paying for is likes. You're not paying for people to engage with you. You're paying for a bot to come along, get your numbers up, which will bump you up in Facebook's search algorithm. Facebook now only really prioritize brand and company pages if you put money behind them. They rolled it out about 3 months ago, sneakily an update. So if you search for League of Legends, their page comes top, not because of their organic search results, but because they spend a poop ton of money with Facebook. So it's also important to rattle through this in 2 minutes. Evaluate the progress in your goals. Keanu doesn't age. Is your community changing? Did you originally want to have 1 million and you've only got 5,000? What did you do wrong? What did you do right that got you to 1 million in a month? Without knowing where you're going and how you're doing it, it's difficult to know what your next steps are. So always iterating and evolving. Natalie talked about it as well. YouTube, Twitch, Stream, these are all great channels. They might not be for your game right now. I would certainly say if you're picking Twitch or Ustream, I'd go with Twitch. They've got the infrastructure. But I would say if you were doing a racing game, I would go with Ustream because they've got better technology to track leaderboards and scores. Things like that, just keep on top of what the latest trends are. This is a sneaky look at Little Big Planet's reporting. Reporting is a really necessary evil. It doesn't sound glamorous. It isn't glamorous. But unfortunately, if you're monitoring a community's growth and trying to make sure that you are doing the most you can, keeping track of it, reporting back to your boss even, if it's your game, reporting back to yourself, making sure that you are always keeping track of how your posts are doing. So this is a post we did that I was really happy with. It was 6% engagement rate. We looked for 3% on Facebook. But I did some that were awful. They just tanked immediately. I kept reporting on it, and so I knew never to ever do that again. I can't believe I left you better work in there. The important thing is to really have fun with your community. You only really get, essentially, a lot of times, one shot with them. I've changed jobs and changed the communities I represent, and I've been lucky that they've all been very nice to me, but I know people where they've jumped from 9 or 10 different communities, and no one takes them serious anymore. And they just become this kind of corporate shill that jumps from one community to another, professes their love for them, and then goes and finds another boyfriend or girlfriend. But I think like turning off your phone if your game's coming out, you want to reply to everything, stop at 9 o'clock, never tweet while drunk. General kind of rules to live by. I lock my phone, Twitter, and Facebook locks after midnight. I tend to work quite late, unfortunately. But after midnight, I should be asleep or wasted. So I'm not going anywhere near Twitter. If anyone has any... Oh, no. You've missed my last slide, Richie. Anyway, my last slide has vanished. So if anyone has any questions, I am on Twitter. It's at SarahWellock84, which was going to be on the next slide with a glorious RuPaul GIF. I don't believe we have time for questions, though.
No, we unfortunately, John, waiting on.
That's fine. Why won't it go? But anyway, yeah, drop me a message on Twitter if you have any questions. I'm at most UK events, but certainly like have fun, know what you're doing before you go, and obviously don't do what Black Milk did. Thanks. Oh, there it is! Hey! Wait, will it work? Will the GIF work?